O Lord, so much to do, so little time. Luke 10:41 and 42a. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about so many things, but one thing is needed. Shalom and welcome back to the Tea Table, my friends. Thank you for being part of the Tea Table audience. The Lord is going to bless us with a teaching that He has revealed to me this week. I remember when I was a youngster living in Florida, and more than once while out walking in the fields by our house, I would stumble across a fire ant's nest mound. Everyone in South Florida, and probably all of Florida, knew immediately what a fire ant's nest mound looked like. It's a mound about 10 inches high and maybe a foot in diameter, and made up of what looked like granular powder. The intelligent people and victims of a fire ant sting would immediately make an about face and walk away because they knew the sting of a fire ant was excruciating, which means agonizing and extremely painful. Not to mention, the sting would leave welts that itched and lasted for many, many days. Anyway, not always, but every once in a while, when I came across one of these mounds, it was as if I couldn't control my urge, and I would quickly, very quickly, kick the mound with my foot and scatter the mound all over the place. Almost immediately, hundreds and hundreds of fire ants would come streaming out of the hole in the ground, ready for battle. Of course, I immediately stepped back to a safe distance and watched what seemed like total and complete chaos. Now, if you watched closely and knew what you were looking for, you would notice some ants immediately went to protect the eggs. Other ants would immediately start to rebuild the mound. Others would try to save the food that was gathered up. And others were looking for who or whatever disturbed their mound with the intent of leaving serious welts as a reminder never to do that again. Interesting, I've seen that ant's nest activity in some of the homes of believers. Trying to juggle life in the home, the family, the job, personal life, church activities, school, and so many other issues, that the cry of their heart becomes, "Oh Lord, so much to do and so little time." It reminded me of a story I heard once about this woman who spent 8 hours a day cleaning the house, but nothing seemed to get done. When questioned, she said, "I don't understand it. I clean the house from the time my husband goes to work in the morning until he returns in the evening, and nothing ever looks done or neat." "What does your day look like?" asked one of her friends. "Well, as soon as Bob leaves for work, I start to clean the breakfast dishes. But I notice there's a broom next to the washer, which reminds me to sweep the floor. So I leave the dishes and start sweeping the floor until I notice a shirt hanging on a chair, which reminds me to do the laundry. So I leave the sweeping to start the laundry, only to notice some cookies on a plate from last night's guests, which reminds me I have to make a food list for shopping. So I put the laundry on hold to do the food shopping, but on the way to the supermarket, I remembered to drop off a book at the library, and on and on and on, until at the end of the day, I'm exhausted, and nothing is done. So much to do, and so little time." You know, there was a woman once that we all know of, and can relate to, some better than others, I'm sure. And I speculate that Martha was busy cooking and setting the dishes and watching the oven so the food wouldn't get burned, and wanting to please her very special guest, the one they call Jesus. This amazing person that could perform miracles and that crowds of people would follow just to hear his words. I'm sure she must have thought to herself, "I want to hear what he's saying, but my lazy sister Mary isn't doing a thing to help me. She just sits at his feet and listens to what he's saying. Who's supposed to take care of all these chores? I'm not going to do it alone, that's for sure, not with so much to do and so little time." Out of complete frustration mixed with probably anger for her lazy sister Mary, she breaks on the scene and says in Luke 10:40, But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me. You know, sometimes life can really be a drain on our physical well-being and certainly our spiritual life. Many of you moms know what it's like to be distracted with serving and planning and working and studying and raising children and being the helpmate to your spouse, and it's even worse if you have teenagers that have no idea what it's like to chip in and help out at the house with what needs to be done. And you husbands, many of you know what it's like to be a workaholic. Leave the house early in the morning for the office, work all day just to come home later than usual because a task needed to be completed on time. You also try to juggle life as we know it, to be the best dad you can be and the perfect husband that you can be and the spiritual head of the family, and try to be the breadwinner so you can support the family in all their areas of need. Reminds me of a graduate school paper I once wrote entitled The Ladder of Success. Rather than go into all the details of the term paper, it boiled down to this. What happens when you reach the top of the ladder of success only to find the ladder was leaning on the wrong wall? You know the picture. The dad, having worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for most of his life, now the CEO of the company, 7-digit income, 6-bedroom house with swimming pool and tennis court next to the 4-car garage that houses the BMWs, Mercedes, and Corvette. At the very top of the ladder of success, but looking back, at what expense? The kids are into drugs, having been kicked out of college. Your only friends are the ones who remain friends as long as you continue to help them in every way. You sit at one end of the 48-place dinner table, and your wife sits at the other end, so very far away. But you made it. You are at the top of the ladder of success, and yet you are not at peace, but in pieces. There is something very wrong with this picture. Just to be clear, can a person be at the top of the ladder of success and still have an intimate relation with family and with God? You bet. Deuteronomy 8:18, and you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth. Psalm 5:12, for you, O Lord, will bless the righteous. With favor you will surround him as with a shield. Proverbs 3:5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Notice it says paths, not path. One is singular, and the other is plural, or many paths. My friends, the blessings of the kingdom can only come about through obedience to the King of the kingdom. God always blesses obedience. Not only are you blessed, but the blessings of God will come upon you and overtake you. In Deuteronomy 28, we are told, when you are obedient to the voice of your God, you will be blessed in the city, that's your home. In the country, that's your nation. Blessed in the fruit of your body, that's your health. The produce of your ground, that's what you put your hand to, including your job. With increase of your herds, that's your belongings. The offspring of your flocks, that's what continues after you. Your basket, that's what you already have. Your kneading bowl, that's what you will have. And the blessings just go on and on and on. Why? Because you dare to be obedient to what God is telling you. Besides, it's hard to sit at the feet of Jesus when you are at the top of a ladder. Not only is the distance from the top of the ladder to the feet of Jesus a long way, but it's also very hard to hear what Jesus is saying when you are far away. I once heard, if you feel far from God, it's because someone moved. Let me repeat that, my friends. If you feel far from God, it's because someone moved. So what is the answer to the cry of, so much to do and so little time to do it? Or, what do I do with all the distractions of life? The answer can be found in the paraphrased Luke 10:39. And Martha had a sister called Mary, who sat at the feet of Jesus, which was the one and good thing to do, so she could hear what Jesus had to say. And that, my friends, is the key to life. Sit at the feet of Jesus and hear what he has to say. And with that, I leave you with this. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'hunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yesemlecha shalom. The Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord cause the light of his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn all of his attention to you and give to you his peace. God bless you, my friends, and I'll see you again next week at the tea table.